Happy Monday. Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast. I'm Jay Zawaski with Greg Boysen, and he's back.
Hello.
Off the injured list. It's Mario Tirabassi. Welcome back, buddy.
Thanks.
How you feeling?
Normal.
That's great.
100% normal.
Love that. Love that for you. Love that for us. We're back at full strength, and it's a good day. Law is here filing through the mailbag for us as well.
So much mail.
Hey,
Yeah.
put that away. That's not yours.
Lots of mail. Do us a favor before we get started with the mailbag. Smash that like button for us. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube page. Same deal if you're a podcast listener. Follow, like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That would mean a great deal to us because it's very, very helpful when you do something like that. So before we get to the mailbag, we should talk about the big news of the weekend. We had sort of speculated since the draft whether Artem Levshunov would play for Rockford or for Michigan State. If you miss it, that decision has been made. He is turning pro, signed a 3-year entry-level contract with a $975,000 cap hit. He will be a pro, most likely in Rockford, starting next season.
Certainly felt like that's where we were headed.
Yep.
We sat here a lot last week and listed out the pros and cons of both. Both going back to Michigan State has pros and cons. Turning pro, going to Rockford, same way. Obviously, the Blackhawks trust their development staff. They trust Anders Sorensen and the coaching staff in Rockford to do a better job than Michigan State. They want to have control.
Screw Michigan State.
And and it was kind of the same way. I take something that Anders Sorensen said when we talked to him last week at development camp about Arvid Soderblom having to go back down to the AHL. I apply it to Levshunov because it's about the same thing. It's not necessarily a performance-based league. If you struggle one night, you're going to be back in there the next night.
Yeah.
Especially for a goalie. They're going to have their schedule of starts. You give up 7 one night, you're going to make your next start. So, with the young defenseman at Michigan State, if he struggles, maybe they pull back on his minutes. Maybe they take him off a certain role.
Yeah.
Where in Rockford, you could control that. Hey, that's all right. You had a bad week. No big deal. You're going to be right back out there this week doing the same thing. So you can control that. There's not as much pressure on the player itself.
And one thing I mentioned, too, a couple times last week, but we know not everybody watches the same thing, is also when he's playing in Michigan State, he is a lot better than everyone he's playing with for the most part and playing against. So you can learn some bad habits at that level, kind of like freewheeling and pinching when you're not supposed to. Playing in the Hawk system is going to teach him a little bit of control. He's going to have to play within the structure and, of course, having the watchful eye of Kyle Davidson and the entire development staff right on him is going to be great for his development. So I think it's what the Hawks wanted. They didn't want to push him too hard. They wanted him to make his decision, but I think they're very pleased with the decision he made.
Yeah, and I think, too, like, he's had a lot of progressive steps up in competition since he's come to North America. Like, he was playing in Europe, comes to North America, plays in the USHL. Next season, he's playing in Michigan State. I think probably one thing they're thinking is, like, let's keep that trajectory going and move him up a level. Because, yeah, he could go back to Michigan State, continue to play on the college schedule, which has its benefits. There's a lot more practice time. There's a lot more time to get in the gym and weight train and things like that. You keep your body a little bit more fresh in that schedule, but there's also the opportunity of, like, maybe him plateauing at this point in his development, which I think you don't want to have happen. So you put him into the professional ranks. You give him an opportunity to be in training camp, because college guys don't go to training camp. So you give him an opportunity to be in training camp, be around the NHL team, training with them, practicing with them, have an opportunity to make the NHL roster, which given what Kyle Davidson has said both at the end of last season and this past week, where they want to make it extremely difficult for the young players to make the NHL roster so that they can better themselves.
Yeah.
If he does make the NHL roster, that means he's playing fantastically. But if he's not in the NHL roster, the consolation prize is playing top minutes in Rockford, which I think is going to be really good for him, and just continues to acclimate him to the pro game. And the AHL is a step up from the NHL in speed of the game and of how decisions have to be made and the physicality. Sometimes the AHL is considered more physical than the NHL based off of who's in there. So I think it'll be a good opportunity for him to continue to take that next steps in his progression. And Blackhawks get to have their hands on him a year earlier than if he goes back to Michigan State.
It also feels like the plan is Rockford. I think it would take a ton for him to come out and play in the NHL. I mean, maybe at the end of the year they give him 2 or 3 games to give him a sniff or whatever. But it feels to me like the plan is Rockford all year, which it's what it should be. I mean, look, he's a really good prospect. A lot of people had him as the best defenseman in the draft, the number 2 player in the draft, but he's not like a Bedard, Celebrini, ready for the NHL sort of a thing. And especially when you compare forwards to defensemen, you want to give defensemen more time to develop. Right. Someone in the chat said that Moritz Seider was in the minors for 2 full seasons in the AHL, and that's I mean, if Levshunov spends 2 years in the AHL, I don't think that's any indication that he's a bust or not worth the pick.
If he spends 2 years in the AHL and then at 20 years old is an 82-game NHL defenseman,
that's
and
amazing.
that you really don't have to go through those initial growing pains. Wonderful. I mean, think about all the times last year where we were like, it'd be nice to send Kevin Korchinski to the AHL, but you can't because of how he was struggling. Now with Levshunov, you have the opportunity to just play him in that league and let him be, on that young team with Rockford, where the mindset now for Rockford under, Kyle Davidson has kind of changed. It's no longer where you just kind of say, these guys didn't make our NHL roster, so now they're in Rockford. It's like, no, we want our young guys to drive what the Ice Hogs do.
Yeah, I would be shocked if he's on the opening night roster. It would have to be he'd have to play unbelievable. I just don't see how he can go straight from 1 year of college hockey and all of a sudden jump over Kevin Korchinski, who's got a full year of NHL experience, jump over Ethan Del Mastro and Nolan Allen and Wyatt Kaiser. Those guys all have at least 1 full year of professional hockey and some NHL experience. He would have to be incredible in training camp for that to happen. Rockford is definitely the plan, and take your time. He's 18. There is no rush here at all. Take your time, get it right. So when he's here to stay, and we're going to use that buzzword from last week. He's here to thrive.
Yes, exactly. Well, speaking of Artem Levshunov and Kevin Korchinski, that's a really great way for us to open our mailbag, starting as we always do with our Discord, because that is for our diehards, and they get preference. And if you want to become a diehard, we'll tell you how to do that later. But real quick, allchgo.com, pick out your shirt, get access to the Discord, become a diehard. More details on that to follow. But let's start with Brad's question here, Law.
Okay, gentlemen. Mailbag's bursting. This is, again, from Brad BD. Now that Levshunov is in the fold for next season, would you like to see Korchinski play with him for a year at Rockford to enhance both of their development? And do you think the Pigs will be must-see TV next year? And does the AHL offer a package? Because I'd probably rather watch Rockford next season.
Yes. Easy answer, yes.
AHL.TV, they've got all different kinds. You can just get one team and get the whole league. It's far more affordable than it used to be.
Yeah.
The only downside to the AHL package is you get the scoreboard feed synced in with the radio feed. Not always the great. Some
it depends on the team, but that's Rockford's setup. Yeah.
Most teams. There are a few teams that have television deals like the Wolves, where they'll have multi-cameras. Toronto.
Yeah.
There are a few, but most of them are going to be what you see on the scoreboard. Not the greatest, but it is good. And it's much more affordable than it used to be. 3-4 years ago, it was $400 for the year.
Yeah.
Now you can get just you can pay. I guess $60 just for the Ice Hogs games.
Yeah.
You don't get anything else, but it's only so it's definitely affordable, much more affordable than it used to be.
Well, and it used to be you would get the only thing you could get was the entire AHL,
Right.
and that's why it was so expensive.
Yeah.
You're getting every team. But if you just wanted the Ice Hogs, like
I think you could even do like only Ice Hogs home games or whatever.
You can do
there's
home games, road games, all Ice Hogs games. You could do it like one game at a time if you wanted. Like
Right.
they have a lot of different options.
a lot of options. So
And
you
yeah,
could
this
definitely
Ice Hogs team is going to be, as far as prospects go, very heavy on the prospects. Going to be a lot of young guys to watch out for. And with Korchinski, like he's able to go to Rockford now this year because he's age eligible. But I think to start him in Rockford just to say, well, now you can go there. You struggled last year. Just go to Rockford. Like that's an option. But I think he wasn't bad enough, I would say, to just completely yank the cord on him.
Right.
And say
Agreed.
you're not in the NHL. Like I think you give him the opportunity to keep that spot that he had last year, where he was, with Murphy, or half the year played with Jason Megna, but he's no longer here, Jacob Megna, and you give him that opportunity to keep that spot. You brought in Alec Martinez. You have more competition across the board. I think it's fine to give him that opportunity to keep that spot in the NHL, and then if he doesn't earn it through training camp, or he does struggle at times this year, then you can put him in Rockford. I think to just toss him in Rockford because you can is a little heavy-handed.
Yeah, I agree. And as far as if Korchinski goes down to Rockford, if him and Levshunov would be
It'd be fun.
a pairing, maybe, but maybe not. They kind of do the same thing.
They're similar players.
I mean,
They're
not a lot of defense, but it'd be fun offensively.
They're two puck-moving
power play unit.
offensive guys. One on the same power play, sure. But as far as a pairing, you probably would put one with an Ethan Del Mastro and the other with a Nolan Allen and roll with it.
Yeah.
Kind of have that stay-at-home and offensive
threat,
guy together. But we'll see how that pans out. We've got. I want to see Kevin Korchinski. He had an entire summer to take the knowledge he gained of what it's like to be an NHL defenseman and build on it. So I want to see him come. Like when we see him in late September, I want to see him bigger, a few pounds heavier, firmer, and I want to see him be able to be stronger on the ice, stronger, get better. He's got a whole year of knowledge, and I want to see him use that through the off season. So when training camp starts, there really is no question on where he starts the season.
Yeah.
All right.
We should address this in the chat. Carrie Jacobs, Jay, were you at U of I yesterday? If not, I saw your doppelganger.
Yes, I was at U of I yesterday. We were dropping my daughter off at ISYM, which is Illinois Summer Youth Music.
Nice.
So she's at orchestra camp, nerd, playing her violin. So she's very excited. She paid her own way this year. She loves it. So maybe he saw me at the Dubai Grill in Urbana getting lunch, or just wandering the streets of Champaign-Urbana. But yep, I was down there yesterday.
And then Brandon Secor with a $2 super chat. Who could beat Korchinski for that spot?
Well, you got Jones,
Kaiser, Del Mastro, Allen.
Well, you got Jones and Vlasic. That's your top pair.
Right.
You have Murphy coming back. You would imagine he's in a top 4 position. You brought in Martinez. You brought in TJ Brody.
Right.
There's 5 NHL defensemen right there.
Yep.
Right. If Del
Then you
Mastro
have
looks better,
Del Mastro, Allen, Kaiser, Korchinski, all those guys in that mix. Phillips and Crevier, I mean, they're in the mix, but they're most likely in the AHL.
Yeah.
Then you throw Levshunov in there. Like it's a lot of competition for that 6th and 7th spots in the NHL. So I think they got 5 guys that you solidify as they're NHL players, unless they're not, which I'd be shocked if any of them are not. And then you got to figure out if Korchinski's in that spot.
That's right. It's going to be a meaningful training camp in preseason, which is great. And hey, some of these guys are old enough to consume beverages, and with all the competition, the kids nipping at their heels, they might need a moment to choose, chill, and crack open an ice cold Coors Light, because those roster battles, they're going to be intense this season for the Blackhawks. And while the youngsters can have their Capri Sun and their what do they call those little hugs? The hug barrels, those little barrels of juice.
Oh,
with the foil top.
Oh, I love those.
Those little barrels.
The blue one was my
those were
favorite.
key in the
Yeah,
summertime.
Korchinski and Levshunov can have those, and then the vets can crack open Coors Light. You know why? Because it's mountain cold refreshment. That's why. When those mountains turn blue, it's as cold as the Rockies. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a smoother finish. When you embrace a chill mindset, it's a good time to choose chill and crack open a Coors Light. Coors Light is mountain cold refreshment, crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart right now by going to CoorsLight.com/CHGO Hockey. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Little hugs. They were called little hugs.
Little hugs.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Everybody needs a little hug every once in a
Everybody
while.
needs a little hug. Yeah. Feel better.
Little hug.
You know what
Big
else
kids,
makes you
little
feel
hug.
better? When you look good, you play good, right? That's a saying I
wouldn't
just
know.
made up. Cuts Clothing is going to help you make you look good, if not great. Get ready to be the most stylish person in your crew this summer with Cuts. Most people would wear a t-shirt every day of their lives if they could, but the problem is most t-shirts are not acceptable to wear at work or out on date night. So our friends at Cuts has finally changed that. Their t-shirts are such high quality, wrinkle-free, and so gosh darn buttery soft that you can look like you're dressing up even when you're dressing down. That's right, you heard it, wrinkle-free. You never have to substitute comfort for fashion ever again. Dive into the summer with Cuts, and for a limited time, you can save money on MMA star Michael Chandler's favorite clothing company by heading to Cuts, C-U-T-S, clothing.com, and use the code CHGO for 20% off. Embrace the summer state of mind with Cuts, and again, our beautiful listeners and watchers, you can get 20% off of your entire order when you use the code CHGO at checkout. That's when you go to cutsclothing.com, use the code CHGO. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you and experience the perfect blend of style and comfort with Cuts Clothing.
I'm glad you added that MMA star in there because I did that read 2 or 3 times. I'm like, I don't have any idea who this Michael
I had
Chandler
to
guy
when
is.
I saw that we were befriended by Cuts Clothing, and I saw the read, I was just like, is there another Michael Chandler or is it the MMA guy? It's the MMA guy.
All right.
He's got pictures of him on the website training in the cut shirts, looking nice and cut.
Ah,
Yeah.
I see what they did there.
I learned something new because I was just like, hey, Michael Chandler, that could be anybody.
Mario knows his MMA dudes. I mean, as we found out in
I
the
used to be
airport.
huge into MMA and the UFC. Like, I had an Affliction shirt. Like, I was really I was really into it. I was
Did you have
really into
frosted
it.
tips?
Well, not that recently, but maybe at the same time as Tony Amani, I may or may not have had them too.
Yeah, you know, I'm not the biggest MMA guy. I find it kind of boring.
Yeah.
A lot of waiting around for a knockout.
I'm much more out of touch.
Give me
with
some
it.
chair shots and
than I
sweet
used
chin
to be.
music and money in the bank.
Yeah.
I know it's fake, but who
How about
cares?
Chelsea Green?
Still real to me,
What a
damn it.
spot that was.
I missed
Did you
that.
see the women's match where the
I saw that.
That was
pretty
good.
rad?
That was very dangerous, but nice that they
It worked.
it worked.
What did we say that was coming to Indianapolis? Was it the Royal Rumble?
Survivor Series?
There was one of the big ones that's coming to Indianapolis. Can't
Maybe
remember what
Royal
it was.
Rumble? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And
All
then
right.
and then Phil got his name. Phil, what the hell are you doing? That was pretty good.
Oh.
All right, let's go back to the mailbag, and we'll stick around with some Rockford-based questions here. This is from Blackhawk63. Will Kyle continue tinkering around the edges to the roster either for Chicago or for Rockford?
It feels like the rosters are pretty much set. There's not a
Yeah.
lot of more they can bring into the NHL team. Remember, you've still got Ryan Donato under contract. You've got 6 defensemen already on the NHL roster.
Seems
You've got 2 goalies. I don't really know how much more tinkering there is to do.
Seems mostly done.
Yeah, I don't really see much you could add. I mean, maybe another vet for Rockford. You know, when you get closer, maybe you do an ATO down there for an AHL vet.
Or you get a
Tyler Johnson.
you get some
Weird that he's still not signed.
you might get some NHL guys that are still out there as free agents that may end up as AHL contracts. You never know what'll happen, but the defensive group in Rockford is a little thin, even with their AHL only contract guys. Like I think they only have maybe 5 or 6. Well, I think now 6 with Levshunov available, but they might need to get another veteran down there defensively, but it seems pretty set.
Yeah, I could see a couple AHL vets, but the NHL level, it's already crowded enough. You don't need to.
Yeah.
You don't need to add much else.
Yeah.
All right. This is from AJ, who asks, chances of an All-State Arena takeover for a Wolves Ice Hogs game this year? Some of us are legally not allowed in Rockford, but I won't say who.
Oh, wow. That sounds like a
that's
you
a-
problem.
yeah.
I like that idea, but I really don't think the Wolves are going to sell us a bunch of tickets to show up with Ice Hogs fans.
Yeah, that would surprise me.
Yeah.
I
That would
don't
surprise
think
me.
they would be happy about that. Maybe
might-
we could do something
We might do an unofficial.
independently
Yeah.
where like we say,
we could buy
hey,
group tickets, right?
We do a takeover.
Yeah.
but I mean, if we buy the group tickets from the Wolves and then show up with nothing but Ice Hogs fans, they may not like that.
I will say though,
Huh.
something in the works with Rockford. So keep your eyes on that. I think something will happen next year with the Ice Hogs. With us.
Eyeballs emoji. Wow.
But call my guy Peter Francis Geraci. He's got an office in
I
Rockford.
mean, he's pretty busy with Braggs, I would think.
but
Yeah,
get yourself off the post office walls there in Rockford. And
What do you have to do to not be allowed in Rockford?
off the.
I don't want to know.
I do and I don't want to know.
Yeah. Well,
Thanks.
if you put up that information, there has to be a story that follows it. So
Get back in
maybe
the
one day we'll
Discord
get
and
the
let's figure
story
that
from
out.
AJ.
Yeah, fill that out in the Discord. Let us know why you can't go to Rockford, and then we'll see if we can accommodate you or not.
Yeah, just real quick though, a couple of people asking in the chat, like, do we see a trade potentially coming for the Hawks? Because when they signed Brody and Martinez, and you're like, whoa, this is way more than we sort of expected the offseason to be. A lot of people thought so. I mean, if something comes up, he's always open to it. Kyle Davidson's always got his ears open for a trade, but I don't think he's actively seeking to move anybody out. The time to do that is the draft. Right now, most teams have kind of acquired their free agents. Now, you might have a team saying, man, we really wanted a veteran right-hand defenseman and couldn't get one in free agency. Can we give you something for Connor Murphy? Maybe, but I think they're pretty set, and I think they want Connor Murphy here.
yeah,
And I know that some people roll their eyes at that, but the off-ice stuff matters. Like, he's a good dude. He's a leader in the locker room. And
He's
when he's
also
healthy,
the
he's a good player.
longest tenured guy on the team.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
And they said a baby, I believe, this weekend. I think
And,
the Murphys
yeah.
had a baby.
Yeah, I saw
and I
that.
don't think his trade value is
it's
very
not
high
as
right
high
now.
as it could be.
No, of course. By the way, I don't think there's going to be a point where Connor Murphy's trade value goes up. He's damaged goods. He's a guy with back injuries, neck injuries. Like, those things don't improve.
If he's healthy and consistently on the ice and putting up good, defensive metric numbers, like, it'll increase.
I think,
but
yeah.
I don't think the Blackhawks are itching to toss him out the door.
I would think if he was to move, it would be a deadline move, not off
Next year,
season right
not
now.
this year.
And he
Next
still
year.
has this year and next
Yeah,
year
right.
under
Exactly.
contract. So
All right, let's go back into the mailbag. This is from Gary Ross in the Discord. What player or players do you see possibly being packaged together
Connor
to
Murphy.
either get future draft capital or another solid get to bring in to help the team? Seems we have too many good players or too many players now, which is a good thing, but could say Reichel and Kaiser be.
I mean,
yeah.
it's hard to like say these guys specifically.
package anybody together.
Right.
Yeah.
It depends what the other team is looking for.
Right,
You
yeah.
can't just say we have Reichel and Kaiser together. Somebody come and take them and give us something else. You've got to fit a need with the team you're trading to. All I'm going to say is, like, don't fall in love with any of these prospects outside of,
Bedard,
Bedard,
Levshunov.
maybe. Like,
No, fall in love with all of them. They're
Don't,
all going
like-
to be Hall of Famers.
Let's go,
Like,
Sammy Savoy.
don't fall in love with any
Oh,
of
yeah.
them because they're all
John Mustard.
trade candidates at some point, except John Mustard. He's
Yeah.
staying here forever.
Works. Hall of
Guaranteed
Famer
Hall
John
of
Mustard.
Famer.
And that Boysen guy, too. He needs to
Boysen.
be here forever. But
Yeah.
they all could be traded at some point. Like, that's part of
Yeah.
why you get so many draft picks now. So then you can turn those guys into currency. Like, hey, we need a certain type of player. We don't have that in our system. We don't have the time to draft one and develop one. Let's trade a couple of NHL ready prospects to get somebody who's already
Sure.
that, and we can
Yeah.
just plug right in. So it's really too early to try and predict. And right now, Reichel's trade value is nil.
It's the same
It's
spot
nil.
where Connor Murphy's is.
It's probably
Yeah.
very low.
Yeah, if the only reason he might be a tick ahead of Murphy's is because he's so young.
Right, yeah.
Like, you don't trade him now because you don't get anything for him.
But like Thomas says in the chat, I really don't want to give up Kaiser. I know I shouldn't, but I really like him. It's okay to like him, but that's the kind of guy who, like, that's a trade bait kind of a guy who you're probably not counting on to be top 4 for the next decade, but has some value, has some interest, has an interesting skill set. I almost said package. I had to find a new word. But yeah, I wouldn't get here. There's probably like 3 guys here that I would think are safe to not be traded. Bedard, Levshunov,
the guys they just signed.
Vlasic.
Yeah.
I'm saying just even long term.
Oh, sure.
That's about it. I'd probably throw Nazar in there too.
Treat the Blackhawks young players as you would Game of Thrones characters.
Oh, no.
Who's getting the gold crown?
Because it's like, you can like them and enjoy them, but just keep in the back of your mind that their time here might not be as long as you wish it would be.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, look at what they did with Boston to get Hall and Foligno eventually here. That was Ian Mitchell and Alec Regula.
Right.
2 guys that were like young, on that like AHL, NHL borderline defensemen. And they said, you know what? We're going to give these guys to Boston, get 2 veterans that we need. Like a move like that, like they could do that again. They could be Phillips and Kaiser or whatever. Like they could do that. I just don't know if they're, again, it seems like they're pretty set with who they're going to go into with training camp. And then maybe out of training camp, someone doesn't make the roster and is just like, hey, I'd like to be in the NHL. Trade me somewhere else. Who knows?
Yep.
All right, back to the mailbag. And this again from the Discord. This is from the Blue Kazoo. Favorite pork product? Yes. Chops, bacon, pulled pork steak, sausages, ribs, etc. What's your favorite?
Chops, bacon, pulled pork, steak, sausage, ribs, etc. That's my favorite.
I like it all. Yeah. I mean, if I had to choose, like bacon is probably
that's the answer.
My favorite pork product.
The last I would give up.
Yeah. If I had a pork product bracket,
I don't agree with that. Idea. I love Charlie the Bacon Guy, but I don't agree with that.
All right.
I think I would go pulled pork would be my number 1.
Yeah, I'm going.
Although
bacon.
I could have brisket, so I don't know if
brisket. Yeah, pulled chicken.
Huh. Oh, this is a.
By the way,
one.
Shout out to Jewel Brats. Had some on the grill this weekend.
Nice.
Fantastic. Just a standard Jewel Brats from the
I know
from the butcher counter.
Serengeti.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I know the rap. About
very good.
Going to the Jules.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will never.
Well, Italian sausage is a tough one too because then you're cutting it out of your pizza life.
Oh yeah, I can't do that.
I would know. No, there's no encased meat ever being cut out of my.
Yeah, so I would actually take Italian sausage over bacon for pizza purposes only.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Sorry, Charlie. Become Charlie the Sausage Man.
See, now pepperoni is a mixture of meats. It's not just pork, right?
You can get beef pepperoni. I believe, yes.
Turkey pepperoni.
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't.
But no, isn't pepperoni like pork, chicken, and beef put together?
I think it depends on the manufacturer.
Or am I thinking of salami?
If only we had a bacon expert in the chat that could help us out.
It's basically
is there a butcher out there?
It's what's left on the table. Grind it together.
I had a sandwich with it today for lunch. So
Bex says I've been a vegetarian for like 20 years and bacon regularly tempts me.
Yeah,
the smell is intoxicating. That's for sure.
It's hard. Yeah.
All right, let's do one more before the break zone.
Yeah, real quick here. Let's go with this one here. Windy City Hockey. Who is your favorite all-time hockey player that never played for the Blackhawks and you wish played for the Hawks? I have to go with Jágr.
I mean, there's a lot to choose from.
I got a long list of
Maybe
those
I shouldn't have
guys.
chosen this question.
No, it's fine. I got my. Can I give 2? Can we just
why
out and pick 2? Pavel Bure and Peter Forsberg are my 2 favorite non-Hawks of all time.
2 guys that got me into hockey and never played for the Hawks, but always cheered for them, always really liked them, Paul Kariya and Martin St. Louis.
I got to go with Joe Sakic. And then we kind of got a Joe Sakic in Jonathan Taves for all those years. Very similar type players. But Joe Sakic was my dude. Him and Forsberg, I love those Avalanche teams in the early 2000s, late 90s. They were my postseason team for a long time. And when we were in Vegas wrapping up, we got to talk to Eric Lacroix for a few moments, who's now part of our DNVR Avalanche crew.
Yeah.
Was on some of those teams, and we got some good stories. I look forward to.
You just cannot wait to tell us those stories.
Oh no, I look forward to hanging out with Eric again in the near future, and after he's had a couple of pops in him, getting some even better stories.
Yes. And if pops aren't your thing, maybe you want to, dispatch to another dimension another way. And you could do that with our friends at Sunnyside, your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place for all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your summer. Sunnyside is Illinois' favorite dispensary with locations in the city, Wrigleyville and River North, to the suburbs, Champaign, next weekend, I forgot, South Beloit, and more. If you're just starting out, Sunnyside has the expert guidance and brands they know you'll love, like my two favorite personal brands, Good News and Mindy's. And here for the summer is Good News' Tea Time disposable vape, bringing classic lemonade flavor that's perfect for the golf course because we all need a little help staying loose on the green. Head to sunnyside.shop. Use the code HICHGO, that's high CHGO, at checkout for 35% off your favorite brands like Cresco, Good News, and more to elevate your first purchase. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois MedCard holders.
I used a little bit of a edible situation on Friday night to watch Axel F. Boy,
right.
that was terrible. That was a pretty terrible movie. I was all excited.
Oh, that's the Beverly Hills
Yeah,
Cop
the new
one?
Beverly Hills Cop.
See, it's hard for I know we're in the middle of the break zone, but it's hard for me because Axel Foley was just like this badass dude from Detroit, and now I look at him and all I see is plastic surgery.
Yeah.
And the actual Axel Foley would never do that.
Yeah.
So I just can't break that, I don't know, it bugs me.
Whoever played his daughter, very hot.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, thanks for sharing.
Good to know.
And hey, if you like Mailbag Monday
Who doesn't?
and you want to be top priority, you can get access to that Discord, and that's where we pick the first questions every week from. Well, that's where you become a CHGO diehard. In addition to all the podcasts and live shows on every team we give you daily, there is premium written content for members only at allchgo.com. You get 20% off all events, dope merch for all of our teams, and a free shirt when you become a member. All that for your just once a year lowly, I don't want to call it a donation, but membership fee.
Yeah.
Speaking of free shirts, you can pick our brand new 27C Hall of Fame 16-bit shirt as your free shirt. We got tons of great Blackhawks shirts available. Our regular CHGO shirts, Cubs, Bears, Bulls. Get 20% off all of them, plus 20% off all of our awesome events. We're going to have some takeovers this year. Keep your eyeballs open for those. Once the season gets rolling here, you get 20% off as a diehard. You can
Come golf with us.
You can come golf at the
Yes, sir.
inaugural Cookout Classic on July 22nd. We also have our
there's a kickoff classic in August.
Classic in August coming up, but this one is going to be a lot of fun at St. Andrews Golf Club.
Yes.
In West Chicago. Get 18 holes with a cart.
Cannot wait.
Tee gifts, complimentary Miller Lite, hole contest, lunch, and a ceremony after the round. All kinds of fun stuff. Plus, most of your favorite CHGO personnels will be there. Hitting the links, you get 20% off of that. Get 20% off all of our Bears trips, London, Arizona, wherever you want to go. Just become a diehard. You will enjoy the perks. Plus, you get top priority on Mailbag Monday. That's worth the price of admission right there.
Somebody was asking in the chat earlier, can they get that new Showtime shirt for free? Yes. Become a diehard, you get the Showtime shirt for free.
Yes.
There you go. To honor Chicago's most recent Northside All-Star.
Yeah, shout out.
Yeah.
And let's get back to the mailbag. We've got a few more from the aforementioned Discord. Let's start here. This is from Rudy.
Rooney.
With the additions this summer, do you see this as an important season for Luke Richardson establishing himself as, quote, the guy versus the, quote, A to B but not B to C guy? Like Luke a lot, but feel like he needs to show he belongs with a roster not designed to tank.
Well, this is when we find out.
Yep.
Is what he gets out of this team. And again, last year could have been that opportunity, but there were so many injuries. Right. And Luke said it, like, it was hard to implement the system to the guys that were there because they had so many new guys coming in so many times that they had to just kind of get them up to speed to be able to play with the team. So he wasn't really able to implement things like he wanted to last season. So hopefully the moves they've run in will protect them against injury a little bit, which they didn't really do last year. I think Kyle Davidson sort of admitted he learned that lesson the hard way last year. And you've got a veteran team that should be significantly better than last year. So, yeah, I don't know if we're going to know for sure if he's the next Scotty Bowman or anything right away, but we should definitely start seeing this team with an identity, this team with a very identifiable system, traits, those sort of things, which we haven't really seen yet because everything's been so piecemealed.
This is third year.
Yeah.
He's now been given, as long as health holds up, a like legitimate NHL roster.
Best roster he's had.
And if Kyle Davidson has set the standard that finishing bottom 2, bottom 3 in the league is no longer acceptable, and he went out and did his job of getting players that would make that no longer a possibility, or shouldn't be a possibility. If the health holds up and this team is still in the bottom 3, Luke Richardson's seat is going to be warm, because now it's just like, I've given you the tools. This is year 2 of Connor Bedard. Like, there really shouldn't be. Look, like, is this team going to be in the playoffs? Like, 99% chance, no. But should they be in the bottom 3? I also think 99% chance, no. So if they're in that spot, then yes, the pressure is on Luke Richardson, and the seat should be hot. But I have faith that now that he has an actual legitimate top to bottom NHL roster of players to work with, the results will reflect that.
Yeah.
Yep. I echo all of that. Yes. If the health is good across the board, obviously you're going to have some injuries at some point. It's hockey. But as long as you avoid what you had last year, and you have this NHL quality roster, which is vastly improved offensively, vastly improved defensively, vastly improved at goaltending.
That's big too.
And if you still have a 60-ish point season, then yes, you have to reevaluate where we are with Luke Richardson. I don't think that should be an issue at the end of the season.
No.
But if it is, you definitely need to, hey, we've seen it with this organization. I know it's not the same thing, but hey, we thought we had our broadcaster of the future. Oh, that's not working out so well. How can we improve? I don't think they would hesitate to make an improvement at the coaching ranks if they don't feel it's up to par.
Yeah.
Great point.
Okay, next
compelling and rich
question. This is from Ernithus. Based on the development of the teams that surround Chicago in the bottom of the NHL, what team do you project to be the largest hurdle we need to surpass in Chicago's, quote, expected timeline into contention? Our Western Conference Finals opponent. Is it the Ducks, the Kraken, Utah? 5 short years away.
Utah is ahead of where the Blackhawks would be as far as, like, rebuilding process, because Arizona was at it for a while.
Yeah, but I
wouldn't think Utah.
They just don't have the generational talent that the Hawks got. That's
no.
Bedard is going to be a big factor here. And somebody in the chat mentioned the Daily Faceoff article from Matt Larkin today, sort of saying that, hey, the Hawks could surprise people and make the playoffs, and he gave his reasons why. We're going to address that later in the week. But a lot of that is hinged on a big season from Bedard. To me, though, like, at some point, all these Anaheim prospects got to figure it out, you would think.
Sharks have had 2 back-to-back really good drafts.
Yes, they have. I mean, Columbus is in the East, but solid down the middle.
They can get their pud whacked them under control.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so there's a lot. I mean, just look at those are the teams you're going to be chasing. And Jason T says Ducks, Kraken, Utah. Yeah, they're kind of the teams right now you're comparing the Hawks to, including the Sharks.
Yeah,
I'm not trading.
Kings could be good for a while.
Would you trade situations with any of those teams right now?
No, because I have Connor Bedard.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
None of those teams have Connor Bedard.
Right.
That's the wild card. That's the piece that puts you over the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I would rather be in this spot as one of those bottom teams than trade any of them.
All
right. Next up, this is the final one from our diehards in the Discord. Blackhawk 63 with the question, who do you see as the most likely extra forwards and defensemen next season?
I think extra forward, I feel like might end up being Pat Maroon. Like he feels like a guy that can go in and out of the lineup based off of matchups or just, if someone's not bringing it on a nightly basis, they can plug him in and be able to be like a fourth line, bottom six guy. Defensively, I don't know. It's you don't really want one of your young guys going up and sitting.
Yeah, if they're up, they got to play.
But I don't think they don't have one of those easy veterans that you're just like, they're going to be a seventh guy. Like Brody and Martinez feel like guys that are they're going to play.
Yeah, Brody sucked last year for the Leafs, though. And I know it's like everybody has a down year, but I don't know.
Brody could be the seventh, but I would not be surprised if Isaac Phillips or Louis Crevier is your seventh defenseman out of camp, because those are the guys that, like we saw it last year, they're not the top prospects. They're not the guys that they've got all this development, needing to invest in development in. So if Isaac Phillips comes up or Louis Crevier comes up and plays, once every 3 games, that's not taking away development from a guy like Nolan Allen doing the same thing, or a guy like Ethan Delmat. You need those guys playing every night because they're higher on the prospect ranking. So I would think one of those two guys they were both re-signed for that purpose, to be that seventh. And then him, if it's Phillips and Brody switch in and out, Phillips Martinez switching out, because those guys are going to need nights off. They're they're up there in age. Martinez has had health issues. And then when you get to the point of the year where you could start trading some of these guys, Martinez will be a trade candidate if he's healthy and performing. Maroon, Craig Smith, those are guys that playoff teams always want to add to their roster. If Taylor Hall can stay healthy and produce, that's a guy that you could flip at the deadline. So there's where your spots open up in March for the young guys who have been playing really well in Rockford to come up and play the last third of the season with the NHL club.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right, next we're going to go to questions from our Twitter followers, and you can follow us at CHGO_Blackhawks. This comes from Chris Mearsman, who says, "You guys help me get through my depression and make me smile. Love your coverage of the Blackhawks. Out of all the veterans the Blackhawks signed on July 1st, who will Bedard learn from the most, or who will impact his on-ice performance the most and help his game grow and mature?"
I think the answer to all those is Teuvo Teravainen. As we began thinking about free agency during the season last year, that was one of the first names we circled as kind of a perfect fit to play with Connor Bedard. I do think that we as fans and media make a little too much of like the mentoring thing. Like, I'm going to take you under my wing and teach you. They're just teammates. They're just there doing their job, right? I think Connor Bedard can learn from a lot of the veterans on a team of how they go about the business, how they handle training, those sort of things. But like, I don't think that Teuvo is going to be like, "Come with me, young man, and I'll show you the ways of the NHL." That doesn't really happen. That's something I think we dream up more. But in terms of on-ice compatibility, those two,
seem like
it makes all the sense in the world.
And Teuvo's going to take a lot of pressure off of him defensively.
Yeah.
Teuvo Teravainen's defensive game is, I think, very underrated. Now you're going to have someone on that line with Bedard, if that's where he plays, that could take some of that pressure off of Bedard, because, Phil Kurashev is fine, but he was never a defensive wizard. And whoever that third guy was, was rotating.
Yeah.
But if you can get a guy on Bedard's line that can play solid defense every night, that just is going to free things up and take pressure off of him. So I think they're all the guys that were signed on the first are going to bring a lot to the table. Like a guy like Pat Maroon, who's a 3-time Stanley Cup winner. I mean, that's invaluable leadership and knowledge. But I think a lot of these things you're going to you won't necessarily see on the ice how they're really affecting a lot of those guys. It's what they bring into the room and off the ice, and that work ethic. That's where you're going to start seeing those things at the practice rink more so, which will then eventually show up on game night.
Yeah, and I think we saw last year, like, how Nick Foligno and Connor Bedard's relationship developed, and I really feel like that was as close to the like storybook, come along with me, young man, and learn the ways of the NHL. Like that's I think that is what Connor kind of needed, somebody like that in his first year. Second year, I don't really know how much of that he'll need because he's done it once. It'll be a different type of season. I think on ice, matching up with Teuvo would be good. So long as he can be healthy for a large portion of the season, it'd be great to see him with Taylor Hall, because that's the reason that he was brought here in the first place, was to have somebody that can like play off of Bedard. So if he's healthy and he's at that level, it'd be nice to see him and Taylor Hall be able to get some sustained time together if possible. And, I think one thing that it seemed like this, organization needed, and went off of what, Kyle Davidson had said, what Luke Richardson had said, and what they did in free agency, they needed a little bit more of that, like, kind of like toughness in the NHL, where it kind of seemed like they were saying like guys weren't toughing things out like they normally would.
Yeah.
Last year. So you got a guy like Maroon, you got a guy who's been through a lot of, a long NHL career, been through a lot of playoff runs with guys like Craig Smith. And you have Tyler Bertuzzi, who on the ice can be an asshole to play against. So honestly, Bedard could learn a little bit of that, like, not that he needs to be a tough guy, but it's like that extra step of like dealing with some of the crap he's going to have to deal with on the ice because he's a target, because he's Connor Bedard. That could be something that like, pushes him forward in his young career of like dealing with that physical edge, the, teammates trying to get under your skin, like stuff like that. Like, I think that could be something that those guys could, a little bit of that can rub off on the younger players.
Yep.
Yeah, get a little red ass in him. That won't hurt anything.
Oh.
And he's already got that, like,
a little bit,
a little bit of like an edge. Yeah. So maybe we see more of that this year.
All right, we go from a question about Bedard to another one about Bedard. I don't like this one, but it's been asked multiple weeks in a row now, so let's do it. Adam Bosco. Hey, guys. Sorry for the downer of a question. Since even the greats like Jordan, Gretzky, and Brady were traded at some point.
Jordan was never traded.
True.
Brady was never traded.
True. What is the likelihood that Bedard will
quit
stay
and
his
kept
entire
coming back.
career with the Hawks? 20%? 10%?
I think the plan.
He's going to Vancouver as soon as he can.
Yeah, as soon as his ELC is
7
over,
years
he's going to
from now,
Vancouver.
he's going.
I think the plan probably is, so long as he continues to play the way that he's expected to and did last year, and continues to grow and develop and be the guy that everyone thought he was going to be, he's going to be like Crosby, where he'll be on this team for his career until he says he doesn't want to be.
Right.
So
Crosby, by the way, nearing an extension by all reports. So.
Yeah. So as much as it's like, yes, anybody can be traded and has been, except Michael Jordan. I really don't think that it should be in Kyle Davidson or this organization's idea to be like, all right, at what point can we trade Connor Bedard? Like, it should be whatever Connor wants, he'll get, so long as it's reasonable. But the plan should be he is day one to his final day in the NHL is a Blackhawk.
Yeah, and I think if you had asked them years ago, would that be the plan for Taves and Kane too? They'd probably say yes.
Yeah.
But Taves, as far as we know, is not coming back. You'd think we would have heard that by now.
Mm-hmm.
And Patrick Kane, who had a pretty severe injury that he was recovering from and just didn't fit the timeline, they moved on from. But I think if they had their ways, they would have probably told you 10, 15 years ago that, yeah, we're going to keep these guys till the end. But circumstances dictate those things too.
Right.
Yep.
So,
I mean, if the rebuild goes right and all these young players, a lot of them hit and become what they're envisioned to, there's really no reason to even think about that for a while. But,
right. Yeah.
don't worry about it now.
Taylor, yeah, exactly. Like we've hit 1 year. Let's not try and like fast forward to the end of the Connor Bedard era before it's barely even scratched its surface.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean,
no more downer questions.
If the question is asking to put a percentage on it, my mathematical brain is going to say 98% chance he does play his entire
there you go.
career
See
in
what you did.
Chicago.
Nicely
done.
done.
Nice
Nicely done.
work. Yeah, I would. I mean, I would probably say 75 to 80 because you never know.
Yeah,
You never know.
All right. This is an interesting thought project here. Damaged Lightning, who's at Matt DeMichael 93. In Game 5 versus Nashville in 2010, if Kaner and Haas can't make the miracle happen, do the Hawks win the Cup? And if they don't win the Cup in 2010 and nothing happens in 11 and 12, you'd assume Q gets fired and more players get shipped off. Is it fair to say they might never win a Cup at all?
That's the butterfly effect, my friend. I don't think they win. They might, if they don't win Nashville Game 5, they might not win that series.
I mean, they'd have to win 2 in a row against Nashville. It's a team that we had seen do that plenty of times, but they hadn't done it yet.
Yeah.
That was pre the Detroit comeback in 2013 and the near Vancouver comeback in 2011 that they were down 3-0 and forced to Game 7. We hadn't seen them do that yet. So it's tough. Like, if they don't win that game, that series, I remember I was a season ticket holder then. I remember, we were talking in between, like right before all that scenario had, there was a TV timeout. Like 3 minutes ago, we were talking to our buddies behind us who were season ticket holders. Like, well, if we don't make it back, have a good summer, because we were thinking they're going down 3-2, going to Nashville. Might be our last game of the year, and then all of a sudden, what happened. So, I mean, if they don't win the Cup in 2010, who knows what happens.
There's so many factors to imagine there, though, too, because you don't get, if they lose, let's just say they lose a series in Nashville, you don't get folk hero status from Byfuglien, right? So he probably doesn't demand as much money as he was going to do. Like, there's so many
salary differences.
Yeah, like there's so many ripple effects to that. That it's almost impossible to imagine. Like, it's because things would have been different. Some guys would have stayed instead of all getting shipped out because of maybe Dale Talon checks the box this time. Or honestly, like the butterfly effect is a scary thing to think about. Like, boy, if I had, like, for instance, like the other day when I said my phone got crapped on, right? Had I walked out of my car 2 seconds earlier, it would have missed me completely, and it would have completely changed the course of my day.
You can
like, it's like, just to think about the smallest little decisions.
You can drive yourself crazy at night.
Don't do it.
If my great grandmother never took the job here, she never would have met my great grandfather.
That's it.
Like, you could drive yourself absolutely insane.
Like, if I missed my friend's graduation party, I never would have met my wife. When I went to high school, my dad backed out of our driveway and said, "Where are we going? Marist or St. Lawrence?" And I went, St. Lawrence. That's how I decided. In the driveway, in the car, it was that tight. If I had said the other, my life would be completely different. Different friends, probably a different college. Maybe I don't get hurt playing football as many times there. Like, it's just, who knows? Who knows? It's scary to think about. I don't like it. Let's move on.
Moving on.
Freaks me out.
Okay, this is from Colin. What do you think the odds are of the convention coming back? I know a lot of fans loved it. I never got to go to one. And COVID put a dent in it at the time as well. I've always thought that maybe it comes back when the Hawks, their future solidified roster is playing. Thoughts?
If it was going to come back, now that things are as back to normal as possible since COVID, I think it would have been back. Doesn't seem like they're going to do it the same way. Maybe they do open up some more fan fest type of things, but I don't think the convention as it was is going to come back.
I don't think the players love it. Like, hockey players don't like talking about themselves. They don't like sharing team secrets. It's just not, it makes sense for baseball. Those guys are a little more open. Hockey players are just very guarded, and I just don't think they love it. They probably love the after event festivities that can occur at said things.
Karaoke night?
Yes, but they don't need that necessarily to have a convention.
Yeah.
Find that where
I could see them bringing it back at some point. I mean, your point is accurate, Jay, about hockey players kind of like, last thing I want is to talk about myself. I could see them bringing it back at some point, but it probably would still be another year or two down the road when some more of these young guys are established and marketable. They didn't do the convention until what? After the first Stanley Cup? Or was it like right before?
No, was it 08 or 09? Might have been 09. I think
first one?
going into the wasn't it the summer of 09?
I honestly have no recollection.
It was the summer of 08 was the first one.
08, okay.
So that team was on the cusp.
Yeah.
So maybe another year or two they decide to do it.
Sure.
Or maybe they do something more fun preseason wise at the United Center, kind of like a meet and greet stuff. I know they do season ticket events,
yeah.
Autograph signings,
But something that's
holiday
open
stuff,
for everybody to be able
maybe
to
they'll
go
do
to.
something like the Bulls had the last few years with
Bulls
their
Fest.
Bulls Fest, where it's outdoors and indoors. So yeah, it could be fun.
I'm down for it.
I mean,
it would be fun.
got
But
the
I
vibe
think
that-
your point is right, Jay. I think if you polled the players and said, "Would you guys do this?" They'd be like, "No."
Middle of our summer.
maybe a Blackhawks cruise. Put them on a boat.
Sure.
There you go.
Yeah.
We're on a boat. All right, let's get a couple more before
Yeah.
we wrap things
A
up.
couple more. First one is from Ryan Miller, who's at Ryan Miller 73. I don't
future
know if
Hawk.
it's the goalie or not. It's that time
Of course, he has a
again.
goalie question.
Will Corey Crawford make it to the Hockey Hall of Fame?
No.
I don't think so.
If he does, it's going to take some time. You're just starting to see some guys from like the 80s and 90s get their recognition.
Not this class, but the class
Yeah,
before
when you
had
had-
3 goalies,
Yeah,
right?
Barrasso and
Vernon.
Was it Curtis Joseph too?
I don't know. I don't think he's in yet. It was wasn't it?
It was 3 of them.
But it was
Vernon was last year.
Yeah, Vernon. It was Vernon, Barrasso. Like those were guys that waited 20 years to get in. Crawford
and Lundqvist.
Yeah, I knew it was somebody that was like.
Yeah.
But look, you got Lundqvist, who made it first ballot. He never won a cup. Yes, he had the individual awards. Yes, he had the longevity, but
And he had
You-
the international success,
right,
which plays a
you
factor.
could argue. You could argue. I think at some point, maybe it happens, but
might
it's,
be one of those
not going to
guys-
happen for a while.
Yeah, he might be one of those guys where it takes 8 or 9
Yeah.
rotations of voting before it's just like, okay, let's put Corey Crawford.
Yeah.
So I always think of this because I think that Corey Crawford is underrated outside of Chicago. And I always think about Chris Osgood, who played for Detroit, good numbers, multiple cups, all those sort of things, but
Yeah,
was
but
always
played
sort of
behind-
viewed as a
played behind
passenger.
a team full of all-stars.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
So did Corey Crawford.
Mhm.
So I think that's
So
I
did-
think
so
that
did
those
Grant Fuhr, who's in the hockey.
Yeah,
Hall.
well, I think those things hurt Corey Crawford's argument because some people are just too lazy to kind of look beyond the numbers and see how good was this guy. Osgood was a career 249 save percentage and 905 save percentage. Let me look at Corey Crawford real quick. His
Crawford's career numbers and Lundqvist's career numbers in the NHL are pretty
Yeah.
comparable.
Crawford 245 goals against, a save percentage for his career of 918.
Pretty
That's
good.
really
yeah.
good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
But I think the perception is what hurts him.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, you know,
I think I think they probably should retire number 50 because who else is going to wear it and who else is he's arguably one of the 3 best goalies this organization's ever seen. They should retire number 50 at least there. Hockey Hall of Fame, I agree. It might take some time. If I'm saying yes or no, I still think probably not, but I would love to see it.
I think he deserves it. I don't think he'll get it.
I don't know. Lundqvist plays in New York, gets in first ballot. He never won shit.
Oh, he's
Those Rangers teams never won. They went to one cup final and got their
Well, I
ass
was listening
handed
to the PHNX hockey show, and they were talking about this too. Like, sometimes the personality matters a little bit. And they were talking about Jeremy Roenick versus Keith Tkachuk, and they kind of think correctly said that Jeremy Roenick's personality is part of what got him in the Hall of Fame too. Is that he was this, very front-facing figure, and he had the the charisma on the ice and the celebrations, and he would talk smack and the whole
Well,
NHL
it's
94
also-
legacy.
It's also that personality that probably prevented him from getting in a lot sooner.
Yeah, maybe.
That's
But I
also
think
true.
the fame thing is not just about stats. And I think when we try to figure out why the F Steve Larmer is not in the Hall of Fame, that might be it because his personality was never very electric. And of course Steve Larmer belongs. Of course he does. For the record, I think Keith Tkachuk belongs too, but he just didn't have that charisma that Jeremy Roenick had and didn't play in Chicago like Jeremy Roenick did. Phoenix, Winnipeg, St. Louis, not the biggest markets.
He's getting more exposure now through his sons than he did when he played.
I think that Matthew and Brady are going to help get Keith in Hall of Fame.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's end today's show with this from Jeff Maroon.
Oh, Pat's brother.
What a maroon.
Not a question, but my wife and I just had a baby boy,
Hey,
and we named him Lucas.
Nice.
Therefore, expect an 80-plus point year from Mr. Reichel.
boy.
That would be
Wonderful.
amazing.
I can't
I
wait.
am not guessing on Lucas
Let's
Reichel's point
go.
totals ever again because he made me look like a jackass. I'd take it. That would be really good. That would if Lucas Reichel gets 80 points this year, that Daily Faceoff article we'll eventually talk to doesn't look as silly
No, it
as
sure doesn't.
it does right now.
True.
Yeah, that would be great.
Oh, congrats.
Congrats to
the
you and
Maroon
yours.
family.
Yeah, Region Rev makes a good point. Hall of Fame votes are so subjective.
Well, and the Hockey
Across
Hall of Fame
boards,
has
yes.
no transparency whatsoever, which I hate. They just say, here it is, why, and then
Right.
they don't tell you who voted for who and who else got votes. I don't like the whole process.
Yep. Frustrating.
All right, I'm closing the mailbag up.
Zip it up.
Let's zip it up and do it again tomorrow.
All right, we're back tomorrow
Can't
at 2:30. Thanks everybody for being here. We have 100 likes on the dot. Appreciate that. We did that without even a like spike. So before we go, please spike that like button for us. Elbow smash it. Hit it with your
We're stealing
arm
the like
stumps
spike
where your
because
fireworks were blown
Those
off.
bums aren't even working all summer, and we are.
I know.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
What bums?
Must be nice.
The
What chaos bums?
Oh,
yeah, they're not.
yeah.
They're not even like
Well.
doing 5 days a week.
I don't think Mario's on speaking terms with DJ anymore.
All three of them got.
You were in the
Mario was
Yeah.
in the
You were in the
triangle of
yeah.
spittle.
Yeah.
Lunch.
I sat across from the three of them at lunch, and then we were all in that little room, and I was right next to DJ for like 30 minutes. No wonder.
I don't
was
know how I
gone
avoided.
all
I was
last
right
week.
next to you.
I don't know. I guess I breathe harder than you, maybe? I don't know.
That's hard
Wow.
to believe. Well, he's wheezing like Fatty McGee, the old Adam Sandler.
Yeah, there you go.
That's me. All right, we'll talk to everybody tomorrow at 2:30. Mailbag continued, and we are going to get to that Daily Faceoff article about Blackhawks ? Playoffs ? Matt Larkin brings up some valid points. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Maybe.
It's going to be fun because you know why? It's going to be July 9th.
Yay.
So talking about stuff. We'll talk to you then on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.